I'm really excited to her in here because I'm all about digital stuff. And so this is digital transformation. So this is Jennie Blumenthal, and I wanted to get her on as a guest on the show. She's a CEO and author of Corporate Rehab. So we can dive a little bit into that as well. And she's also got a book on the same topic. So this should be pretty interesting. She's got 20 years executive counseling, Fortune 500 companies on growth strategy and digital transformation. So I'm all about growth strategy and digital transformation. So it's obvious for the people on my podcast and the audience why I have Jennie on air. So with that as an introduction, Jennie, thank you for being our special guest today. Welcome. You can tell us a little bit about your background and how you get onto this space in the first place.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mick. I
You
appreciate it.
bet.
And
Sure.
yeah, I'm excited. As you mentioned, I spent 20 years in corporate America, focused on growth strategy, digital transformation, looking at all the
Mhm.
different ways that digital was disrupting and changing and giving new
Sure.
opportunities for businesses. And I left in the middle of the pandemic pivot and started my own firm, really focusing on leadership. And it's really focused on all of the same growth strategy just applied to humans in terms of how we can actually grow in some of the skills that we have and how to shift out of patterns like the hustle culture and things that keep us trapped or optimized or unoptimized in terms of the way that we lead ourselves, and how to shift into thriving in business and as leaders.
Pretty interesting. And so, one of the first things I would say is even if you could define what digital transformation is, and then what are some of the biggest changes that you've seen? And you did mention the pandemic. So, there's almost like a pre pandemic, a pandemic, and a post pandemic kind of evolving that's going on. Could you address that as a question then?
Yeah. So for digital transformation, really the definition that I like to use is that it's thinking about how digital is changing the way that we do business, whether that's serving customers, whether that's
Yeah.
the way we deliver services, whether that's the way we actually find customers. And
Hmm.
it really can go through all levels of your business. What we saw early on for companies in the pandemic was really this focus on delivery models as stores either shuttered in terms of brick and mortar, or there was a
Sure.
need for, places like Chipotle and others that had like drive up windows that they had to really think about changing their operations.
Hmm.
That's what we saw kind of in the first wave. I think what we're seeing in this wave now, as we think about the future of work and the future of delivering services, people are using the recession as a way to actually look inward a little bit and think about
Yeah.
how they innovate their businesses, including their business models, and where digital falls within that. So that I'm really excited to think about the transition from thinking of digital as more of an operations upgrade to now really thinking of that a holistic way to think of all of the aspects of your businesses through strategy, through execution.
Right. That's helpful in the background and your thought process on how to approach this because a lot of businesses really did have to adjust, and you can see it's pretty bleak going a lot of small malls and what have you, and half the companies are gone, half that means business. That's people. Could Now that we're in, say, a post-pandemic period, can you address what you would say are some of the hot growth areas and the things that people should be looking at in terms of this post-pandemic and digital transformation period?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things we're hearing right now is really this whole mix between digital and AI. So, what's the marriage between those? Where does one end and the other begin? And what's the interplay? So, things like, the chat GPT that's actually automating a
Yeah.
number of the items that people might have thought of digital not being able to do just years ago. Another big piece we're seeing is metaverse, and thinking about
Mm.
what does your digital business look like within the metaverse, or what do you actually think about the aspect of having a metaverse related to the rest of the way that you do your business? And companies are making trade-offs to say, is that just the next shiny object, or is that really a future that we need to make sure that we have a strong flag planted in? And so those are the things I think moving forward that we'll wind up seeing a lot when it comes to digital transformation.
Yeah, so I'm looking at some of those areas. So yeah, it's really interested to hear your insights on Chat GPT, PTT, and things like that. Anyway, because people are trying to figure out how to move their businesses forward. But if we're thinking of businesses in general and some of those changes that have taken place and the hot growth areas, let's say you're the business owner because people are listening and that's what they are. They're business owners. So what would you recommend businesses to try to see what works for them now, and where would what should they be looking at essentially as a business owner?
Right. I think this really depends so much on the size and scale and the type of your operation. So, if I had to say
Right.
this from a broad perspective, the first is really trend spotting and thinking about what those trends are out there and how they directly impact not only your business today, but what the competitors are doing and what even the
Hmm.
future disruptors that don't even exist might be able to do. So, thinking about what those trends are and how they directly apply to your business. And then the second piece is really thinking about how you might just dip a toe in the water and try out some of those areas this year. So whether that's just looking at, for example, we'll take chat GPT. Maybe
Sure.
there's a way you can look at that to automate some of the back of the house in your business before you
Mhm.
introduce it to customers or something that would be customer facing. With the metaverse, maybe you could set a goal for yourself and your team to just really get metaverse literate the first 6 months of the year and then watch how
Mhm.
that evolves. And that way you're still in the game. You have relevance in terms of looking at where some of these trends are going, but you're not overspending or over indexing in a time where we're all still looking at the economy and trying to figure out what's going to happen. But those that really take the time to get into that innovation in the midst of a recession, we've seen time and time again as the business cycles start to upturn, they wind up in a much better position on the other side of it. So don't be afraid of trying it out, but really be mindful in terms of how deeply you jump into that water.
So look at it in a foray and experiment a little bit, but then not necessarily go in too deeply because we don't know, right? I mean, a lot of people are saying digital transformation. It's the one thing, if I'm just thinking of the internet in general, who knew what the internet was going to be? And this has continued to be indicative because it's gone into areas that we don't really know. So if you're a business owner, look at these things, experiment, and see the size and scale and how it applies potentially to your business.
Mhm.
Now, if you're looking at what you have in terms of your background and your expertise, uh, given that you've sort of lit the landscape now for the digital transformation, what is it that you would do and what is your expertise in this area to assist business owners?
Yeah, so right now, actually, what I'm doing is taking all of that digital transformation and actually applying it to founders, female founders and entrepreneurs who are trying to grow and scale their businesses. So, helping them to figure out which markets to go into, how do they scale that, how do they get their message across, how do they build out some of that, the pipeline of opportunities for themselves in digital. And so, that's really where I'm focused right now, on those entrepreneurs who are looking to grow and scale their businesses.
Mm. And now we should say a little bit about your background in terms of writing and what you can do. If a person is interested in these things, digital transformation, helping their business, and also in terms of what your book is and your expertise, how do they get a hold of you and what can you do for them to assist them?
Yeah, so about half of my business is really focused on female entrepreneurs who are growing their business, and so that's a private coaching group. It's called a Rise program, and it really is trying to help them look at digital and other means to try to grow their businesses. The other half of mine is actually consulting to corporates who are trying to figure out how to think about the future of the leadership within their organizations and upskilling those leaders as well. All the information can be found on my website, which is www.corporate-rehab.com. You can buy the book there. You can get more information on the coaching packages or on the speaking and leadership opportunities, and it's all right there.
And the name of the title of the book, too, as well.
It is called Corporate Rehab, Ditch the Hustle Culture and Thrive Again. And the whole concept is I want more leaders to be thriving across our C suites. And that requires us to actually be leading really intentionally. So, whether you're looking to do a digital transformation, you're in the midst of one, and you're looking to try to make sure that you've got the rest of your leaders aligned around you and can stay in there for the long haul without burning out, this really walks you through the process of actually ditching a little bit of our addiction to the hustle culture, but really thriving in the future of work.
Yes, it's really setting the scene for the post-pandemic and the digital transformation all in one direction, but in a really helpful and I would say a healthy direction too. And I think that's really key to mention. So, Jenny, thanks for being a guest on the Dr. Digital podcast. I appreciate it. Got some really good insights, and it looks like these are really great areas, both in digital transformation and also thriving and being healthy in the post-pandemic period. Because I think one of the points you made was people are looking inward a little bit, and I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, Mick.
You bet. You have a great day. Thanks for being on the show. Until the next exciting interview or episode, we'll see you next time. Deus Volt.